Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I love every single one of you and appreciate you so much. Today is the Minis Challenge. Lots of inspiration to come in the playlist. More about that in just a little bit. For right now, let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. All right, I have these Dollar Tree pumpkins. I'm just gonna get them ready for painting because I am gonna be painting all three of these. And they're just two different sizes, but the green one I had pulled out because I knew I wanted to paint one of them black, and I figured darker color would probably be easier to paint black. I'm sure any of them would have worked. So it doesn't really matter what color you start out with, but I was being super careful with the stems, and then remembered I was going to be painting the stems anyway. So yeah. And in fact, the black pumpkin, I decided I wanted to paint that stem black too. So anyway, this one I am painting with my Adirondack white. So that's a bright white. And then the third pumpkin I am painting with my plaster chalk paint by, I think that one's Waverly. But Waverly and Home Decor are both plaid products, and I've heard that they're the same formula. I don't know if that's true or not, but I kind of use them interchangeably. So this is plaster. Once they were all done being painted, I did come back in and start painting some of those stems, and we will move on to the next step once I have that done. So for I guess for the white pumpkin and the black pumpkin, I painted both of the stems black. For the plaster pumpkin, in a little bit, I'll paint it pink. And I just had come in with a smaller brush just to try and get some of those edges cleaned up. And now I'm going to take my little brush and I'm putting two little circles, dots on here. And I was trying to get them lined up. And I guess because of the way I was holding it, I didn't realize until I set it down that they were a little lopsided. So I wanted them at kind of like the same level. Yeah. So I tried to kind of fix it. I made them a little bit bigger, and yeah, it worked out fine. So for this one, I am looking at this pumpkin and trying to figure out how to make the shape that I want. And so I'm just taking my time, and anytime that I am showing you my videos here, you guys keep in mind that I have this sped up so that I don't bore you to tears. So this is about 2.5 times the speed that I was actually going. So please don't think that I am super fast with my crafting. I actually tend to be a very slow crafter because I tend to be a little bit particular about how I do things. And so I like to take my time, and yeah, so just keep that in mind when you look at what I'm doing and you're like, oh my goodness, I could never do that. Just remember, I am taking a lot of time to do this. And with this, it's paint, right? So you can totally come back and paint over it and adjust it. And you're going to see a couple of times here, I'm going to end up at doing exactly that. I'm going to end up touching things up. I'm going to end up painting over things and redoing them. So please don't think that I get it right the first time. This is, crafting. Stuff happens in crafting. But once I had those little eyes on the front set, I went ahead and I put some black blobs around the rest of this little pumpkin. This is my white pumpkin that I'm working on right now. And this is the larger of the three. I kind of wanted 3 different sizes, but I only had like 2 different sizes in my stash, so I made do. But that's the larger of the 3. And now I've got my pink. This is a Vintage Victorian by Home Decor, and I am going to be drawing a quasi kind of flat oval on here. And this is one of the things that I ended up having to touch up and paint over. And I did find it a little bit challenging to work with all of these bumps on the pumpkin. Every time I got to one of the little, I'm going to call it a crease, where the pumpkin kind of goes in on itself, I found it really challenging to keep my line straight going across there. So again, give yourself time and be kind to yourself, and just kind of go with it. And the more you work with it, you know, it'll all work out. So just have faith. But so I've got my pink and I'm just trying to get this all situated. And once I've got that done, I did go ahead and give it an extra coat, and I will go back in a little bit later and fix that. So now I've got the pink still, and I'm going to do like a circle here at the base of these eyes. And you can see the one little eye on the left, that's another thing I'm going to be touching up with some white in a little bit, because I liked the way that the one on the right came out, and the one on the left, not so much. So I am just creating this little nose here with my pink and just making sure that it's the shape that I wanted and just making sure I've got it where I want it. All right, pink again on the black pumpkin. This is a little upside down triangle that I'm creating, and I'm just going to continue on until I get it to the right shape. I did end up actually grabbing a smaller paintbrush because I just wasn't getting the corners the way that I wanted it. This brush was just a little bit too large for the detail work I was trying to do here. So you just have to kind of experiment. And then I remembered I wanted to paint the stem pink, so I ended up needing to give that one 2 or 3 coats of the pink just to make sure that all of that gold was covered up and it was the right tone of the pink there. So now I'm coming back in here. I've got my plaster, and you can see I am touching up where I had way too much pink going on here. And the shape wasn't right, and so I just came back in with my plaster and I fixed it, right? So just remember, with the paint, if you mess something up, you can paint right over it and fix it, or touch it up and make it exactly the way that you want it. So it's not ever carved in stone when you're working with paint. So just trimmed that up. I've just got a flat brush here that's allowing me to have a little bit more control over where I'm applying the paint. And now I'm taking my black again, and I'm gonna kind of put little nostrils on my nose here. And it was a happy accident, or pleasant surprise, I should say, the way that my little brush applied the paint there. It was, I don't know, I just liked the shape of it, and I didn't really have to do a whole lot to emphasize those little nostrils. So that worked out well. And then I got a thinner brush, and I'm gonna do an outline around the nose with the black. And you know, again, I was doing the best I could. My paint was getting really thick. This is an older jar of my paint, my black home decor chalk paint. So I was adding a little bit of water to it. That's why I've got it kind of on my parchment paper there rather than just in the, I guess I could have just put it in the lid, but I'm just adding some water to it a little bit, and then going back and dipping my brush in and using it. I just wanted to have a thin outline. This was a little thicker than I had envisioned, but it still turned out really cute. So I was happy with the end result. So once I've got that all outlined, I'm gonna set him aside, let him dry, and I'm gonna grab my other one real quick, and I'm gonna do some little nostrils and outline on this one as well. I guess I did it with the outline first. And I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background meowing. I think she is trying to get into my daughter's room. So forgive the background noise there. But doing this outline, again, it was a little bit thicker than I had hoped, but I was doing the best I could here. I felt like my hand was a little bit shaky on this, but like I said, just take your time and do your best, and you can always go back and touch it up if you feel like there's something that isn't looking the way that you want it. All right, here I'm touching up my my eye and just applying some extra white there. And I'm looking at this, and it's starting to look a little pink. I'm like, I've got red on my brush, so I'm testing it over on the side. I'm like, I don't know how I have red still in there. So I set that aside. I figure I'll let it dry and I'll go back to it. Grabbed a different brush, and now I am drawing a little mouth on my black pumpkin. Again, this brush was a little bit too large, making my whiskers not happy with them. I was struggling a little bit with all of the painting on this, you know, but you do your best, and if you don't like it, you can paint over it, which is what I'm actually going to end up doing here. So I just wasn't happy at all with those whiskers. But now I've got a smaller paintbrush here, one that doesn't have red in it. Fixed my eye, and now I'm going to come over and I'm going to draw some little yellow circles on the black pumpkin. These are my kitty cat eyes. So just drawing those in, and I'm really just waiting for that white to dry so I can go over it with the black without making a mess. Because I'd already decided at that point that I wanted to paint over it, which now I'm doing right here. So you can see it's very easy to just make it disappear and we can start right over again. So I'm doing, I don't want to say a dry brush effect, but I just kept brushing over it and it dried out really pretty quickly. So I was able to come back in with a smaller brush, still maybe not as smaller brush or thin as I might have wanted, but definitely 100% better than what I was doing before. So you can already see my whiskers are much thinner, and I was able to get all three of them in there without crowding each other. So like I said, just take your time, be patient with yourself. If something happens that you don't like, just paint over it or touch it up and you're good to go. So I'm just putting a little bit of white dots on the eyes, and then just to give it a little bit of life, I guess. And now I'm coming in with the little black pupils. Now, once I had all the painting done, I grabbed out my felt. My white felt, I'm going to start with trying to come up with the shape for the first set of, the first set of ears that I'm going to do. So I just kind of did this one by hand because I knew I wanted kind of somewhat of a triangle shape, kind of a curved triangle, and then just trying to make it a little more symmetrical here, and folding it in half wasn't really working very well for me, so I punted. And once I had that done, I traced it on the back of my black, and then I knew I wanted something that was a little bit smaller. So, but then I'm like, I don't want it in the middle of my felt. I want to be able to conserve my felt, so I just kind of moved the whole thing over, and I knew the shape that I was going to want and about the size. So once I had that done, I cut out two of them. I peeled off the backing from the black and applied it to the white. My white felt here is not an adhesive felt, it's just a plain felt. My other colors here are clearly adhesive. So the black and the pink are both, excuse me, self-adhesive felts. So I had slitted this, slitted, is that the right word? I slit this at the base to help it curve, you can see there, and then I was just cutting away some fuzz there, and then glued it together, and I'm now applying just a bead of hot glue along the base, and I'm tucking the ear in along the crease of the pumpkin and getting that all situated, and then I'll do the same thing with the others. So cutting, I'd say it was probably about a ½ inch. I would play it by ear though, no pun intended. Oh geez, that was bad. But I would just eyeball it and just see what is going to help make the ears lay the way that you want them to. Because the first time I did it, I cut just a little bit of a slit and I tested it. I don't know if you saw that. And then I decided to cut it a little bit more. So I would play with it. I think these are so cute. You'll have to let me know what you think of these. But I would just kind of cut a little bit, see how it's going to look, and determine whether you need to cut a little bit more. For this next shape, this one took me a minute to try and figure out. It's kind of like a weird quadrilateral. Is that the right word for it? I don't know. It's a four-sided shape that is not quite a rectangle, but it's kind of like a wavy rectangle. But I did the same process. I had cut out some pink to go on top of my white. I'm going to go ahead and apply the ears the same way that I did before. Now with this one, I applied it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's way too long. This little piggy looked so weird. So I used my heat gun, loosened up that glue, pulled it off of there, and got it cleaned up a little bit. And then I just trimmed down the base of the ear, and I started over. So yeah, again, much better because the first time it looked hysterical. So Piggy is done, and now I am just going to kind of draw out the shape that I want for this last set of ears for our cow. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Now I'm only going to be using black for this one, so I need to mirror this because I'm going to sandwich it together, and then I need to cut out one that's identical and then another mirror. So I've got two that are mirrored and one that is identical to the one that's already cut. And I'll get those all cut out and then I piece them together. Because again, my white felt didn't have that adhesive, so I didn't need to worry about it. It was a perfect backing for my pink and my black felts for the other sets of ears, but because I'm only using the black here, I don't want that paper on the back of my ears, so I'm just making sure that it's all felt. And it'll also be the same thickness as the other ears, right? So because they're all double thick. So it's super sticky though. So just going ahead and getting those all sandwiched together, and then I tested it once I had together to see if I needed to trim off any of the edges, but it was actually really pretty good. So I didn't need to worry about that. Checking it out, lining it up, cutting my slits, and I'll do that same thing again where I glue it together and just make sure that it's formed to the right shape so that it'll lay down nicely on the pumpkin when I need to apply it to the little pumpkin head. I'm doing the same thing with the other ear. And I think these little pumpkin animals are adorable. I hope that you like them too. You'll have to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of these. I think the cow actually ended up being my favorite, but you'll have to take a look in just a second and see which one is your favorite. I don't know why I decided to show you this process all over again, but I'm sure that you've kind of gotten the method at this point. So here we go. Look how cute! I love it. Let me know what you think. Now, as I mentioned earlier, today is the Minis Challenge, and there is a whole playlist full of inspiration. There is a link in my description box, so I hope you will go and check that out. And if you love making minis and would like to join us next time, we'll be doing this again on Friday, September 16th at 1 p.m. DIY number 2. All right, I have a whole bunch of Dollar Tree rub-on transfers. If you recall from my last video, actually it might have been the one before, I was doing a giveaway. And then I also had a Dollar Tree haul where I told you about how I'm giving some of these away too. So if you haven't checked out my haul and you want one of these transfers, because I got extras, make sure you go and check out my haul video and find out how you can get in on the drawing for that. And the drawing for the last one is actually at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But I'm just cleaning up these little plates, I'm gonna call them. They're display plates because they've got little stands on the back of them. Also from the Dollar Tree. I had put that sticker on the bottom there thinking it was gonna help me remember where bottom was on the round plate. I ended up not needing it because I could see the little stand sticking out from underneath. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I'm cutting away the excess from my transfer and just making sure I'm going to get it lined up inside of here. I had cleaned these off with rubbing alcohol. I can't remember if I told you that already. But just making sure that it's nice and clean and ready for my transfer. These are a little sticky, so once you set them down, if you're not super careful, they will start to already adhere and then you're committed. So just keep that in mind when you start to lay these down. But I think these are so pretty. I was honestly really impressed with how they came out. You can see in the picture on the left, they're suggested use, I suppose you could say, is on a wine glass. I don't know that they would actually last on a wine glass. I could be mistaken, but I feel like you would have to seal it somehow. You definitely wouldn't want to put it through the dishwasher. So I am opting to use it differently. So I'm just pulling it up really slowly because if anything starts to lift, I want to make sure I can put it back down. But it came up wonderfully and nothing lifted with it. So I'm just really, really happy with the way that looks. So I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to go ahead and trim off the excess. I'm trying to keep it a relatively straight line to help me with making sure that I keep my image straight when I lay it down. The rectangular little shape here is going to be a lot easier to work with as far as that goes. And peeling off the backing, getting it lined up, making sure there's nothing on there, lining it up, getting it even. And then I'll go ahead and rub it down a little bit. Now it's stuck on there a little bit, and then using my burnishing tool. If you don't have a burnishing tool, you could use a debit card, a credit card, a coin, like anything that's got an edge on it that you can use to rub. You could use your fingernail if you had to. And there we go. I think I used to use pencils back in the day too, or like pens and color all over it, like rub it. And that way you could tell what you'd rubbed. But anyway, let me know what you think of these. Now it's time for a shout out timeout. Wow, Rose has been busy. These are beautiful and adorable, Jamie. I love all of the farmhouse decor. So sweet and beautiful, Iona. I love all the pumpkins, the fall decor. Love it. And I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 3. All right, I have another Dollar Tree transfer, and this time I'm not sure if this is a candle holder or a vase. I suppose you could use it for either one, but I am cleaning it out again with rubbing alcohol. I'm cleaning inside and out. Sorry, I'm a little out of frame here. Because it's been sitting on my shelf for a little while, I'm going to be painting the inside of it, so I want to make sure that the inside is clean, and then I'm going to be applying the transfer to the outside, so I want to make sure that the outside is clean. Using my Waverly chalk paint in plaster, I'm going to grab a relatively large brush here. And again, I'm going to paint the inside of this. Now, I have started to do this with some of my projects because it allows me to keep a really nice, clean finish on the outside of the glass while having that really nice color, right? That rich color. And then I also am able to continue to work with the project on the outside of the piece while the inside dries. So this has become one of my favorite things to do, painting the inside rather than the outside of the glass. So if you prefer to paint the outside, you certainly can do that. I'm sure that you can apply the rub-on transfer to the paint, but this way I know that I have a super smooth surface and I don't have to compete with any bumps or anything like that. So this is curved, right? So I am going to be trying to keep that in mind as I get this transfer prepped. And you're going to see in a second, I'm going to cut some notches out on the sides here in hopes that it'll help it kind of, lay nicer on the vase. You're going to see that I do end up having to create some additional cuts, and it worked out just fine, but just keep in mind that it's not going to lay flat against something like this, right? And you can see on the inside of my vase, I'm definitely going to need a second coat. No need to worry because I am working on the outside and the paint is on the inside, so I will be able to add another coat of paint in a little while once my inside, first coat has dried, right? So again, I love this method with painting on the inside. So here you can see I've been clipping away. I'm just being very careful not to clip the design itself. So just be aware of that. and just making sure that I am getting it to where it needs to be. I grabbed my little burnishing tool again. It is a little bit more challenging to do this on a curved surface. So if you're not accustomed to using the rub-on transfers, you might want to start with a flat surface project, because it definitely is a little bit more complicated when you start getting into the curved pieces. So you could see I did a bunch more clips along the top of this, just trying to find a way to get it to all lay down nicely, nice and flat, and then just rubbing it on. And there were some areas I could tell that were not adhering properly. And you could see I laid it back down, used my fingernail on a spot. Now this is where it's important to hold that film in place as you start to peel everything away. Because if you start to lift it and you see that some of the design is lifting with it, you can lay it right back down, right where it was. And as long as it hasn't shifted, you will never know the difference. You lay it right back down, you go over it again until it all lays on there nicely, and then you can peel it away and it's good to go. And no one would ever know that you struggled with it or had to lay it back down a couple of times to make sure that you got all of the little bits and pieces adhered properly. So it really is a neat thing. But again, you just want to take your time and just make sure that everything goes on. And here I'm coming in with my second coat of paint, you can see, and you know, I'm able to continue to work with the project as I go here. So, because I painted the inside. Let me know if you like that hack with painting the inside as opposed to the outside. All right, so come on, Corie, let's get done with the painting already. All right, so we're gonna move on. And once I had that all painted, I grabbed out my Dollar Tree hula skirt. I'm grabbing out a couple of strands here. I actually just clipped those loops at the top that were holding it on there. Just used my scissors and clipped those off and then pulled it out because I knew I was gonna be cutting that in half anyway. I'm wrapping this around the lip at the bottom of my vase. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tie a bow, and I'm gonna lay it down here flat in a second for you to see what I'm doing. There we go. So I had started my bow and then I'm finishing my bow here. So I've got a lot of this raffia stuff going on, and I was determined to get it to lay the way I wanted it. So I am messing with it and I'm massaging it and just trying to get it to where I want it. And eventually I was like, you know what, I need to just use a little bit of hot glue to keep it in place and have it where I need it. So I added a little bit of that in there, and then I was able to kind of manipulate it a little bit more. Yeah, I just kept messing with it until it succumbed to my wishes, so to speak. So fluffed it up and that's done. Now, once it was completely dry, this is the magic of editing. I did leave it for a little while, let it dry. Actually, if I'm completely honest, I used my heat gun on it for a little bit. But you got to be careful with the heat gun, because with the chalk paint, and it might happen with other paint too, I'm not sure, but it will start to crack when you have a couple of layers. So you just want to go easy with the heat gun. I think it's because the outer layer dries faster than the paint that's underneath, and then it causes cracking and that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. But I have the eucalyptus in here that I've gotten off of Amazon, and the rest of these florals are all from the Dollar Tree. And my friend Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs will tell you that the more variety of the flowers you use, the higher end your arrangement will look. So you can totally use Dollar Tree flowers and have a beautiful looking arrangement. The proof is going to be right here in just a moment, because as I said, everything here is Dollar Tree with the exception of those little eucalyptus leaves. So I did put in some of my picks whole, if you can believe it. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know I always cut these to pieces, and now I'm going to start doing that. But those first two picks, I just kind of pulled them wide a little bit and spread them out a little bit, and then I was able to just stick them in there, and they served the purpose that I was seeking. And now I'm just going to continue to cut different shapes and sizes and colors of these little picks and tuck them in around the arrangement. I'm just doing what makes my eye happy. You know, please be patient with yourself. Know that you can do this. I'm just trying not to clump them all together, so I'm spreading each flower type out around the arrangement to give it interest and basically just making a good mix. You generally want your tallest flowers to be in the middle, and then your shorter stems would work their way out towards the edges of your arrangement. So that's something to keep in mind. Now I'm using these little puff balls that I absolutely love. These were actually already in my stash. I had found them in Massachusetts last year, but I recently found something very similar in my Dollar Tree here at home. That was part of the recent haul that I did, but these were some of the original ones that I already had in my stash. And now I'm going to come in with some of these blue leaves. I have never honestly seen blue leaves. I don't know. Let me know if you've ever seen actual blue leaves. I always see like the reds and the oranges and the yellows, but I don't know that I've ever seen blue. But I thought they were interesting, so I put them in here for some little contrast. But that's it, you guys. Let me know what you think. And now here are the winners from the Dollar Tree Rub-On Transfers Gold Leaves design. We have 4 winners, and winner number 1 is Theta Skeins. Winner number 2 is Julie Byerly. Michelle Mull is winner number 3, and Deb Balliet is winner number 4. Just send me an email by Sunday, August 28th to claim your prize at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. Congratulations! And here we are with the final reveal. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the projects, please remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what was your favorite, and remember, go check out the playlist. There's a link in my description box, lots of inspiration from a lot of really talented crafters. So I hope that you'll go and check that out and give them lots of love. Until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.